Most clients that come to us typically complain that their previous agency or their previous in-house team was not proactive enough. And they typically ask, how do we approach and how are we being proactive? And I think that it has to do with two things. The first thing that affects proactiveness is the amount of scope or the amount of resources that are allocated towards a particular project, meaning that you have enough time to do above and beyond work in order to continue to get better results and at the same time stay profitable or fit within your limits of your schedule if you are a full-time employee. The second piece is processes. Do you have a process to actually being proactive? What that means is that allocating a specific amount of time for new ideas, for testing, for thinking outside the box. And let me cover both items in more detail in terms of how we specifically approach it and how we like to handle that. So the first thing is that the scope and the amount of resources allocated towards a project. We are not the cheapest in the industry, and typically I've noticed that especially companies that have worked with a company that is charging a very, very low fee, that agency is typically not very proactive. Why is this happening? Well, because they allocate only a little amount of time. They typically have enough time to do your reporting, maybe some basic optimizations and some communication with you. And that's basically it. So they run out of time and then they can't go negative, from their time and resources perspective with a client all the time. So they're not proactive all the time. What we like to do is we like to come up with fees that give us extra time to spend on the account above and beyond the reporting, communication, optimization. That means we have a way and we have some extra time to come up with new ideas, whether new ad angles to test, whether test new features on the platform, to do extra research on your product feed or other aspects, because that allows us to move further and really help with the growth of the account. Now let's talk about the second thing, which is processes. Not every company has a process for coming up with new ideas. The way we like to approach things is that we have 4 tracks within every engagement of our clients. So we have a growth track, which is really the proactive piece, where during the growth track, we do strategic planning, forecasting, coming up with different testing ideas, and so on. So that helps us to allocate a very specific amount of time to be proactive with our clients. The second piece is monitoring and optimization, which is basically handling everything within your account and your product feed and your merchant center. Just to think of this as like work that must be done on a weekly basis. You cannot live without it. It's like brushing your teeth. You have to do it. We have that piece that is set in our process. The third piece is reporting. Same thing. Meeting with you, communicating with you, analyzing data. We set a very specific amount of time to ensure that we are able to do that, and you get good quality reports. You get insights from our engagement together. And finally, we have a CRO piece, which is, conversion rate optimization piece, where we allocate some extra time to solve any conversion rate issues or average order issues, basically stuff that would be affecting the overall performance of the ad campaigns. And we want to make sure that we do allocate some time on that as well. Once again, there's a specific process. We have specific tasks within each track to ensure that we can allocate time and we know what to do, and then we appear proactive. Now, on top of that, I think it's important to explain what we're doing and how we prioritize work. So in our reporting, we have a slide called Project Pipeline, and that helps us to balance the work and also work with you on priorities to ensure that we do allocate proper amount of time on each 4 tracks. And we also judge each of those priorities based on 2 factors. The first factor is the ease of implementation, and the second factor is the impact towards your business. And based on that, we score everything to ensure we know what is a priority and what is not. And that allows us to be on the same page with you and also remain proactive. And we've seen over the years that sometimes working together with clients and of course other team members, things can get off track. And that allows us to ensure that we get back on track. For example, someone may come up with 10 different ideas and just throw it at us. We would prioritize it, and then we would have a conversation to say, hey, maybe you want to analyze these things just because you're curious, but this may take a lot of time and may not impact anything on your business. Therefore, we we would deprioritize it because it's not in the best interest of focusing heavily on that, because then we may take away from some of the growth projects that we are doing for your business. So that's the process that we have in order to stay proactive. Once again, I don't want this to be, some promise video or whatever. Once again, everybody can say that they are proactive. The question is, the amount of time towards the management of the account adequate to budget in for proactiveness? And two, are there processes in place to ensure that that really happens? So that's the answer.